Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's KETIV Autodesk Virtual Academy session. I'm Nigel Mbaye, Application Engineer here at KETIV, and today I'm joined by a special guest, I guess, Jose Paredes, who's been on a couple of these before. I think this is like your fourth, maybe fifth one. Um, so really excited for that. So today we're actually going over, as you can see on the screen here, one of a group of a series called the Inventor Fundamentals. And today we're going to be going over the Vault workflow with an Inventor. So most of the people on this call that I see do own things like product design suites and product design collections, in which you already do have Vault. And more often than not, we see people who own the tool don't necessarily leverage it to its full potential. So we're going to go ahead and go through a lot of that stuff today. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Jose. We're in for a great session. I expect to be here for maybe half an hour, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. Definitely with questions too. So.
Yep, and along that same line with questions, go ahead and type them in at any time. We'll go ahead and address those either during the session or at the Q&A here at the very end. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to Jose.
Thanks, Nigel. So like he said, we're going to go over the fundamentals today. And one of the reasons is because we see customers use Inventor and not use the Vault workflow to its full potential and all the tools that it incorporates. So today we're gonna learn how to take full advantage of Inventor. And like Nigel said, if there's any questions, go ahead and type them in. We'll take care of them. In today's session, we're gonna make sure you know how to keep track of your files in using Vault or in your home page on Inventor, how to keep those models organized and how to share them, as well as how to control the versions of your models in Vault. So when I say that, I mean revisions or even rolling back to a previous version that you might have had, and then how to customize this Vault and the Vault tab to work in your favor and use those tools like you need to. And the first bullet was keeping track of your files. And if you have used Vault or if you haven't used Vault in the past, you'll know that there's a certain folder structure in the Vault. There's certain statuses from the Vault that you can see in your Inventor now, and we'll also see how to arrange them by that status. We're going to jump right in here to the Inventor real quick and take a look. Here you'll see the assembly and a part that we're going to work on today. And at the bottom corner of each icon here, which you can actually change, what size you want them to be or a list, you'll see a small box, and it tells you what the status is of that certain assembly or part in your Vault. And if you do see a status that you don't recognize, you can always scroll down here on the left hand side. At the bottom, it'll give you the Vault statuses that are available. In this case, you can see I have the part and assembly, but they're not checked out to me. So it tells me it's available to check out if I do need to work on it. And what I can do is right now I only have these two in there. But we can also, if I had more parts in different statuses, I can go ahead and organize them by that. I can choose files that have been checked out. I don't have any right now. But just different tools you can use to organize your parts and models. If you know you checked out a part and it's not showing up with the status that you think it should have, you can always use this refresh Vault status here and make sure that it is up to date and it is checked out like you need it to be. One other thing that actually Nigel brought it up to me the other day is these hyperlinks on the side now. If you have this option checked and you click on the workspace hyperlink, it'll take you to that folder in Windows, which I think is something neat and definitely something that will be useful for certain users. So like I said, you can arrange your software, your models by status and update that status to make sure that it's what you think it should be. Is just another breakdown of the three that we went over and where you can go ahead and look at those. Once you have the Vault workflow incorporated, you can use it to open up your models directly from Inventor. So we're going to go over how to sort the parts in the folders using the property columns that are there. Search through your parts so you don't have to sort them sometimes, and just search through them by properties, and then how to share your designs through the Vault client as opposed through the Inventor client, and some of the advantages that are there. Once again, we can go over to our Inventor, and if we go to our Vault tab here and hit the open button, which is usually the workflow that you want to use to open up your models to make sure that everything's all right. Like I mentioned before, there are the property columns here. You can arrange by version. You can always move these depending on the priority that they are to you and your company. For me, usually by default, the version will be all the way towards the left, so I moved it forward so that we can keep track of the versions that we have. As far as searching, as soon as you click on the search box, you can click what property you want to search by, or you can go ahead and just use the default and search by all properties. This is something very useful. It's something that's in the client as well, but the functionality was added to Inventor. And something also that carries over from the client for those that have used it before are your shortcuts. If you have certain items or certain parts that you're always working on and those are set up on your client, they'll come through to your Inventor, as well as your saved searches. So with that, we'll go back and actually go to the Vault client and go over the pack and go that I was talking about. Today, the part we're going to be working with is an RC car. We'll go to our workspace. And let's say you want to share this with a customer or an outside vendor to see how much it'll cost to actually fabricate. You can pack and go it from Inventor, but you can also pack and go it from Vault, and going to the File tab and then going down to Pack and Go. It'll allow you to choose how you want to pack and go it, whether you want to set a destination folder and just have all the files stay in the hierarchy that you want them, or in this case, we're going to send it to a zip file because it'll save space and it'll be easier to actually send it out to the customer. Like I mentioned before, you can send it to a destination folder, or even use your mail client to send that out, or SharePoint directory if you need it to be. One of the advantages here is actually in the options. A pen transmittal report is basically a log file of the files of the model that are sent in the zip. So you can that's something that some of our customers really like and require in some cases when they send it out to customers. You can go ahead and check that option if that's something that you need. Another thing we want to go into today is actually the version control that comes with the Vault workflow in Inventor. Working with the previous versions that you might have edited in the past, you can go as far back as you need to because of the versions that are kept in Vault. They work with to relate to some of our AutoCAD users. They work sort of like the BAK file with your AutoCAD drawings, where you can revert back. You can save that BAK file in case anything disastrous happens to your file. You can always use that as a backup. In this case, all your BAK files are being stored in Vault, and you can roll back to those. And the example that we're going to do today, you can keep the progress that you've made to bring it back later. I'll go more into that right now, actually. We'll go to our Inventor. And we're already in the Open tab, so I'm going to go ahead and open up this assembly. It's going to ask me, do I want to check these files out? We want to say yes. In this case, it's going to bring up a dialog. This dialog will allow me to make some comments in case I want to keep track of what I want to do this session. And I'll actually go over how to edit whether or not you want this dialog to pop up. Sometimes, you want to skip it and save the comments to the check-in process. So we can go ahead and hit OK. I don't want to add any comments right now. It's going to open up my model. And in this case, we're going to be working with an RC car, like I mentioned before. And we're actually going to change the view rep to be the rear suspension. And this part right here that you see is one that was created, and it's eventually going to be included into the rear suspension. but we want to go ahead and optimize it, make sure that it's not using more material than it needs to. So we're going to go ahead and open that one up. And as you can see here, it's just a a general shape. But we want, like I said, we want to go ahead and make sure we're not using more material than we need to. So after some engineering, of course, we want to go ahead and make some extrudes, get rid of some material. Since before we just opened it to look at it, we weren't making any edits. It didn't ask us to check it out. But now that I'm going to make that extrude, it's asking me, do I want to check it out? Want to go ahead and say yes. And the extrusion cut was made, and I removed some material. We're able to see here it should be cheaper to make now. We can go ahead and save that part, and we're going to check it in. So like I said before, now you have this dialog where you can put in your comments. I'm going to make a comment saying that I made the extrude cut. Go ahead and yes. And here you can actually, like, taking a look at this dialog, you can actually close the file, save it, and keep the files checked out in case you want to work on them afterwards. Or if you want to just stop working altogether, if you're done for the day and you want to shut down your computer, you can close the files and delete your working copies so you get a fresh batch when you log back in.
Yeah, and on that same note, sorry to jump in really quick, Jose. What I do notice a lot of times working in support, I'm sure Jose sees this as well, is a lot of people do tend to keep the working copies in their folder, and sometimes that creates file link issues where you'll have an assembly and you'll have a part that's like outdated for some odd reason. If you do delete your working copies every time you check files into Vault, it ensures that you're going to get the copy you need for those components. More often than not, when I see a file linkage error or some part is not updated, it's something along the lines of the working copy got confused or didn't update when you did a checkout. Sometimes crazy things happen, but you can avoid all of those things by clicking that box. Jose, if you just want to click that box, just show people that box is really important. I use it all the time. Some people do like to keep their working copies on the machine, but for the sake of like disk space as well, I know that with solid-state drives, people don't necessarily have as much space as they used to, and this could help you in that regard as well.
Yeah, and something you want to keep track of actually is, since I'm using this part in the overall assembly of the RC car, if I click, I'll actually go ahead and show you. If I click Close Files and Delete Working Copies, it'll go ahead and check it in for me, and then it'll tell me that it's being used somewhere, that it's open in another window. You're going to hit OK. It checked it in, everything is fine, your edits are there, but it didn't close the file or delete it because it's being used here. As you can see, it's been updated, and what we can do after that is actually we want to go ahead and close this here since we've made our edits. And now if we go to Vault and check in our whole assembly, let me actually go back. And actually, no, I'll leave it like this because I'll show what's going to happen afterwards. We check it in and we have that by default, whatever option you had checked will stay there your next check-in. So I had it checked in the previous check-in, and now it'll want to go ahead and close the files and delete the working copies. We'll leave this one like this for now. Actually, extrude cut. So we're going to hit OK. Yeah, it'll tell me that I have a file that is not checked out, which is that extruded part. If I want to continue, it knows that it's checked in. It just wants to make sure that I know that it's checked in. We're going to go ahead and hit yes, and now it'll check in the whole assembly and actually close the assembly and delete the working copies. So now we can go ahead and take a look at our assembly again, but we're going to go into the Vault client. We're going to look in here. We're going to refresh this. So we have our previous version here, the assembly, but we made it so that we can save on material, and we sent it out to engineering just to double check, and they're like, oh, you can't remove that material. We actually need it for something. In some cases, it's not just an extrude cut. It could be other design changes that you've made on the fly, and you need to revert back to your previous version.
Yeah, it could be even visual. You know, it could be a material change, or even like a color change on something. Sometimes that happens when people who aren't in engineering are like, I want that to be purple, and you're like, okay, let me go back.
Yeah. So now you're stuck in a bind. You saved it. You put it back in Vault. How do you go back to the version? You know it's there, but how do you get it? And if this is something you have to do, then you can go into the client and actually go to the assembly that you want. You're going to want to go ahead and check it out. And you want to actually do a get as well. Go ahead. But now what you're going to do is, you know that the most recent one has the extrude on it. I have one here that doesn't have an extrude. So what I'm going to do then is actually go ahead and do a get. Go ahead and hit OK. Taking a little while here. But what you want to do is you checked out the most recent version, which is the one with the extrude, and what you're going to do is get a previous version. So the one that you want to show up again. In this case, we want to make sure that the extrude is no longer there. So we get that version, and it's going to overwrite your working copy. And then you're going to go ahead and open that up in Inventor and just check it back in. So what you did there is you're overwriting your most recent version with one from the past.
This could be a computer issue, but we'll take care of it.
Go.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So there was a dialog box that was like hiding behind a couple of windows. Sometimes when you get some things like this, dialog boxes do show up. Sometimes check your other monitor and find them more often than not. I'm using that a lot today. But oftentimes, when people are like, oh, my thing is stuck and I have to delete, like I have to exit from Task Manager, well, like the dialog box is like behind your Outlook on your other screen. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, it's kind of one thing actually a trick that you just used. It's not Vault related. It's just Windows related. Is if you hit Alt and space and then go to Move, and then you use your arrow keys to move your window a little bit, it'll attach itself to your mouse, and you can, if it's hidden somewhere on a different screen, it'll pop up. So now it's asking me, the file is checked out to me. Do I want to overwrite the data from the Vault? And you want to hit yes to this. Because like I was explaining earlier, you're taking an older version and you're overwriting the current one that you have. So we're going to go ahead and hit yes, and then we're going to go to Inventor. Now, usually the workflow is go to the Vault tab, open up your part, and work on that then. But since we're doing this kind of workaround override, we're going to go ahead and hit open, go to our CCAR workspace, and then open this. And that's the assembly that we had before. And as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here to our rear suspension and to the part we just edited. You saw I made the cut. It's back to what it used to be. And we can go ahead and go into the Vault and check that back in.
And that'll create a brand new version on top of everything else that is this one. So
we're going to go ahead and save it. We're going to close files and delete working copies. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And now, if we do our proper workflow,
slowly loading here. Also note that if you are using Vault, it is on your network. So it's kind of reliant on your network speed. Luckily for Jose, I think you're working on a Vault locally on your computer.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It looks like what happened there is when I did the a reversion, I didn't open up the part and save that one over again, so it kind of reverted back. So that's something that you wanna take a look at there. We're gonna go ahead and just keep going now. And if that's something that you're more interested in going over and something that you think would be helpful to you and your workflow, just go ahead and contact us, and we'll definitely walk you through it more in depth. And make sure you don't do what I did right now and forget to save the part. So now that we went over how to go back in versions, how to go back and save your older versions back up, we can go ahead and try to customize this so that it works better for you. One of the things I actually wanted to go over here was this button right here, the Vault Options. If you go ahead and click that, you can configure a lot of things in here that Vault brings up, one of them being the prompts. If you go ahead and hit that, it'll give you a list of the prompts that Vault gives you, one of them being check-in. Do you want Vault to remind you to save your parts and models before it's checked in? You can go ahead and turn that on and off. Checkout prompts, everything. These are all things that pop up while you're working. You can go ahead and configure those to your needs, whether or not you want your workflow for your company uses them. One other thing you can edit here is actually a checkout dialog suppression. These dialog suppressions right here, like I mentioned earlier, when I check out a part, it actually brings up a dialog for me to add comments. If I don't want to use that, it allows me to suppress that, but it allows me to use whatever defaults I want from that dialog every time I use it. So that if it's nothing, if I don't want to add any comments, but I always want to get the latest version, I want to include the parents and the children, every time I check something out, then I can set that here. We're going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'm actually going to check this back in.
Just saving your clicks every once in a while.
Yeah. So we're not going to close files and delete working copies this time. We're going to hit OK. And I'm just checking it in so I can show you that before it did pop up a dialog. But now, if we go ahead and go to Open, oops, that's it. Vault tab, Open. And then we want to go ahead and check them out, yes. And this time it doesn't bring up the dialog. And we're able to work, go straight into work with our models. And that goes back, this slide goes back to the options and what you can control with your Vault. And now we're going to go into what can go wrong when you're using your Vault option. And we've actually had a couple ABAs that address these issues here. And if you want to learn more about them or you want the links to them, just go ahead and let us know. But the two big ones that we want to touch today are Vault tab not loading, and the biggest issue there is it's actually not loaded into your Inventor. You can go ahead and right-click on your panels and make sure that you load it and it's working for you. And even if it's loaded, sometimes you'll run into the problem where your Vault tab is grayed out. And the biggest issue there is was covered actually in the projects AVA that Nigel did not so long ago, and it's because the project you're working on is a standalone project as opposed to a Vault project, and it's not allowing it to log into the Vault. So those are just it. If you're actually trying to incorporate this workflow and you're running into some issues, these are things that we can either send you the links to or you can call into Lifeline for, and we'll definitely help you get that up and running. As far as the presentation goes, I think that's pretty much all we're going to cover today. I just want to go ahead and summarize what you can do with this workflow. Just keep track of your files, make sure that you know what their statuses are in the Vault, and make sure that you're seeing the parts and models that you are working with. Actually, that's actually something I wanted to mention that I forgot to. But if we go back to Inventor and we go to the Home, here you can see unpinned files, and that's because those are the files that I recently opened. But if I know I'm going to be working on this part a lot, and it's one of the main parts I'm going to be working on, you can actually use this top button here and pin it to your Inventor home. Now it's going to show up here even though I haven't opened it up in a while, as long as I need it to. And that's just one of the tools that we want to make sure our customers are aware of. And now going back to this, we can, like I said, you can keep track of your files, make sure that they are where you want them. You can organize them how you need to in that open dialog through the Vault tab. Just make sure that they're organized by the property that you want to. Export and share them over to outside consumers, outside customers, or vendors, and include that log file as opposed to the Inventor Pack and Go, which doesn't include that. And control your versions. We went over how to bring back an older version that you needed. Just got to make sure that you properly save it, and it should overwrite any changes that you might have made while still keeping them in the history. And then the last one, making sure that you have your Vault working for you and not you for your Vault, optimizing it to your liking and to your company's workflow. As far as dialogues or comments that you may add, you can always suppress and add them. And with that, I think we can go to questions that might have come in during the presentation.
Definitely, and we do have a few here that have come in. Let me just go ahead and go through these real quick. So the first question that we got was from Alan, and Alan was wondering about creating new parts, drawings, and assemblies from existing files within Vault that are very similar, are used for new similar designs. So yeah, you can do that. That's the actually the copy design function in Vault. I think, yeah, we have done an AVA on copy design, so if you are looking into doing something like that, go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/KETIV Technologies. And the copy design tool is probably what you'll need for something like that. Actually, definitely what you'll need for something like that. If you have any questions, just let us know. So we got a question here from Radu, asking how Pack and Go works for AutoCAD files and sheet sets. So if you do jump into Vault and you do a Pack and Go, it does grab all of the needed files for that AutoCAD file, so your XREFs all come through. Jorge did mention to me though that let's see, that's probably a good case in which you can do a get to and then just choose the place. Browse to a place and send it there. That might work a little bit better. If you need a little bit of clarification, Radu, go ahead and let me know, and we can go ahead and send you some screenshots that actually Jorge sent me.
Yeah, and just to elaborate on that get to, usually when you do a get of the file from the Vault, it'll automatically send it to your working folder, the place where it keeps the structure of the Vault. But there's an option that when you do a get, to send it somewhere else, which is what Nigel was talking about. If you want to just export all the files that you see there that you need to a certain folder on your desktop or
external hard drive.
Yeah, you can go ahead and do that option as well.
Yep. And David asked the question: is the force override button still available in the Vault Get dialog box? It is still there. It is in the same place that Jose just talked about. Where you choose the browse at the bottom instead of going to working folder. There is a working folder force overwrite button there. So let's see here. This one's from Ray. When you open and check out an assembly, do you check out all the parts in that assembly?
No, not always. In some cases you do want to, but in most cases, like you saw earlier when I did a checkout and I opened up that RC car, it did a get of the main assembly, and when I went to work on that rear suspension part, it asked me to check that out again.
Yeah. So there is an option to check out everything, and you can set it up that way. If you're not gonna edit the parts directly, then maybe don't check them out, because it'll give you a new version of stuff too. Yeah, in most cases, no. All the parts don't get checked out unless you explicitly want to do so, and then there are options to do that.
Which is pretty much where I ran into that issue where it reverted that rear suspension part. It didn't check out every single file, so when I went to check it back in, that rear suspension part didn't update to the new version.
Yep. And we've got a question here from Brandon. Is there an option to get a Vault folder automatically on a schedule? Brandon, might need a little bit of clarification on that as to what your workflow is and why you're trying to do that. Most cases, I don't see a need to like get the folder all the time on your local machine, unless you might be going offline to grab something from the Vault. But yeah, you can use, as Jorge mentioned here, you can use the task scheduler to do something like that. Just if you do have anything in regards to your workflow, definitely let us know about that. Along the similar lines, we do actually have a promotion going on right now. I completely forgot to mention this. A couple of weeks ago, or was it even last week? Yeah. Time flies super fast. Last week, I did see a couple of you on this call at our Inventor Insider event here in Brea, California on both Tuesday and Wednesday. So definitely thank you all for coming to that event. It was super awesome. Got to see some new functionality in Inventor that might come out in the near future. No guarantees, but definitely looks like that's going to be the case, that a lot of that stuff is coming out pretty soon here. We do have a promotion where we're doing a Inventor update training. We're giving that class at a discount of 25% to those who buy before the end of the year, which is coming up here in about 2 weeks or so. If you do buy before the end of the year, you do get 25% off the training, and you can use it at any time during the, any time from now to the end of 2017. So you can even use it when 2018 comes out. Usually that happens around like March or April or so.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, definitely let us know in the survey, and we'll definitely take care of you. Looks like through that, a couple of questions did come in. Just read this here. I have this one's from Susan, and Susan has a computer with Inventor files that were created by another login user. If there are files in the Vault that are older than the files that are on the computer, how can you check in the newer files from the computer with a different user workspace?
That's going to be a workaround way. Yeah, I think along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. If you do have an issue like that, definitely contact Lifeline. It's hard for me to imagine this right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do contact us here at Lifeline, we can definitely
take a look at that.
Take a look at exactly what's going on here. We might have to do a workaround to get those files in if they were, say for example, gotten by another user that left. This does happen sometimes. There's actually, I had a couple cases this week about this, in which a user had left the company, but they still had some files checked out.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to remove the reservation on those files. Say for example, Jose.
Mm-hmm.
Jose had some files that I needed, and Jose ended up like going on an extended vacation because Jose likes going on vacation. But I needed some of those files back in my Vault because obviously since they're checked out to him, I can't have access to them. I can remove the reservation on those files, but I won't get the files that he was working on if they had been updated and not checked back in. I would just be able to get the last one that was checked in the Vault. So that happens sometimes. Mm-hmm. So with that, I think we'll give everyone 30 more seconds or so to post any questions that you do have. Just a reminder for those of you who do have product design suites and collections, you already have Vault. So definitely, if you need help using some of those tools, or even you're thinking about implementing a Vault, definitely let us know. We do have some DIY kits in regards to getting that all set up for you, and we do have our tech team on staff to help you out if you do run into any technical issues while working in the Vault. It does seem pretty daunting. It was daunting when I first saw it. I was like, what is this craziness? But I definitely, the learning curve is not too high, and it does provide a lot of advantages over something like a network folder or a Dropbox or something. So
yeah.
If you have any questions, let us know, and we'll be able to answer those for you. Again, there is a survey after this, so those of you who are going to close the webcast here when we close it, a survey will pop up on your screen. Definitely let us know if there are any sessions you want to see here in the near future. We're going to do some Fusion 360 sessions. We're also going to jump into some Inventor presentations. So for those of you who haven't seen the new 2017 presentation environment, we're going to take a deeper dive into that because it's definitely a lot different than it was in any previous version. They did a full revamp on it. And those are going to be happening here the next couple of weeks. Along those same lines, we do not have an AVA next Friday, and we never have them on Fridays. We'll have an AVA on next Thursday or the Thursday afterwards for the holidays. Figure you guys could might not even be in the office, so we'll be here. So if you do have any questions, let us know. We'll probably be sending out some videos as well to AVA subscribers on those days. So definitely keep an eye out for those. With that, I'd like to thank you, Jose, for being here.
Thank you for
Again, I'm Nigel Mbayek, and we're out of here. We'll see you in 2017. Can you believe it?
I know.
It's crazy. All right, then. You guys have a good holiday, and I'm sorry that I didn't wear a Santa suit today. So
we tried.